My knights, my homies, welcome to another Holy Knight King video. Today, we are doing things a little bit differently. Usually I stick with gaming videos, but today I decided to do a fun little video of ranking Bible characters. First up, we have our boy Samson. Obviously, he's got to land in the superhuman tier because Samson is well known in the Bible for having superhuman strength. Essentially, just having a he's just being very, very strong. I remember of the feats I remember, it's just Samson. Our boy Samson here was I saw someone say the Hercules of the Bible. He was super strong and he got that strength from his hair. He was just spiritually gifted with just superhuman strength, able to kill an army of armies of 1,000 men, 3,000 men. I think it caps around 3,000 men, until he got his hair cut. And then as a last hurrah, when he was chained up, he used the last of his strength to bring down a stone temple, killing another 1,000 men, I believe, something like that, which is, kind of caps him at around building level as a which we'll call it like a power, as to use power scalar language. But that's about where he caps out at superhuman. The guy is no slouch in terms of a scale, and he got some feats. You know what I'm saying? But he caps out at around superhuman. It's unfortunate that superhuman is like the lowest tier. So next up, we have Jacob. The only reason Jacob is here is mainly because he wrestled with an angel in the Bible, and the angel wasn't actually trying to hurt him, so the angel was holding back. So I want to say it is a feat. Of Jacob's like some level of superhuman strength to be able to wrestle with an angel, because angels are kind of deity level beings who kind of eclipse most, if not everyone on this list pretty much. And then Adam and Eve, I feel like I kind of have to put them in superhuman automatically just because they were the first humans. So I imagine they were the peak, like the pinnacle of human condition when they were first made, because they were like made in God's image, you know what I'm saying? And like God gave them the dominion over the earth, and they were like, for a while they were just eating fruits and vegetables in a garden, and probably some animals after Adam named them. I don't know, but they should have been in peak human condition. They just don't have any feats really before they got cast out of the garden and kind of like left out there naked and afraid. Moving on to low tier hacks. And a low tier hack, off rip, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Their low tier hack is essentially just fire immunity. That's really it. Fire immunity. That's basically it. Because they stood in a furnace, because some tyrannical ruler was telling them to worship them instead of worshiping God, and they were like, nah. And they stood on business, and they got thrown in a furnace for it, and they just didn't die. They just didn't catch fire, and that was that was crazy. So essentially, they have fire immunity. But if I remember correctly, that's pretty much it. If there is more, I am unaware of it. Another low tier hack is our boy Joseph, which I would put above those guys. Joseph, I'm pretty close with the story. They made a movie about Joseph, which I thought was a pretty cool movie. Not one of my favorite movies made by that group, but cool movie nonetheless. But either way, Joseph, he didn't really have any like sort of crazy feats, but he was being a very successful person in Egypt. But he was also the ability that he had was just that his dreams were prophetic. his dreams were prophetic, and they essentially kind of told people their futures. Like he had a dream that he would rule over Egypt, that his brothers would be bowing down to him. He had and that ended up happening. He had a dream about these two people that he was in prison with. One was a baker who he said, "Oh, your head's gonna get chopped off," and he was like, "You're a weirdo, stay away from me." And then later his head got chopped off. And then the other dude, he was like, "You're gonna serve at the right hand of the Pharaoh," and he was like, "Oh yeah, that'll be pretty cool." And then later he went to go serve at the right hand of the Pharaoh, and then he told Pharaoh about his dream about Egypt and how there was going to be a huge famine, and he basically saved Egypt from dying from that famine. So that was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. So his dreams were prophetic, so he could essentially tell the future through his dreams, which was pretty good, pretty solid hack, I would say. And then next up, we got one of, if not my favorite Bible character. We have King David. King David, one of my favorite Bible characters, just because he has a pretty cool name for one, and two, he's kind of inspiring because he's one of those people that, like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, stood on business. And I'm not gonna lie, one thing I will say is that he was very, very, very close to ending up just in the superhuman tier, because a lot of his feats are like physical feature based. He fought a lion. He fought a lion and a bear in the same day, I think, as a teenager. And he only had a rock, which is crazy in its own right. I think he only had a rock, and he like bashed the rock into a lion's mouth and killed it. And I think he did something similar to a bear, and I think he did that. He either did it back to back or he did it in the same day as a teenager. And then later he went to go fight Goliath. And that fight, right? David versus Goliath, that's an iconic moment in the Bible, right? David and Goliath, so many people tell that story of victory, where David was like, "Man, you uncircumcised Philistine, I'ma get you. I done killed the lion, I done killed the bear, and I definitely won't kill you because God got me. You know what I'm saying? But and he was talking smack, bro. He was talking smack to Goliath, right to his face, because Goliath was pressing everybody in the camp except him, bro. That's why I want David one of my Bible goats, bro. He's one of my Bible goats. And I feel like that fight is debated, because it's really debated on how tall Goliath was. It says he's a giant. And from the little bit of research that I did, Goliath is either from the measurements that it gives that equate to like how tall he would be in the measurements we have now. He was either 6'9", which is pretty, a conceivable height, or he was 9'9". So either way, he would be, David as a teenager, especially around that time, he would be like less than 5 feet, because most people around that time were averaging like 5 feet or lower, and he was a teenager. So it's kind of like an assumption that he had to be 5 foot or below, right? And so either way, whether he was 6'9" or 9'9", he's towering over David. So that's kind of impressive. But at the same time, he used a slingshot, and some people would say, "Oh, if I walk up to Shaq with a Glock and I pop him, is that impressive?" And it's like, bro, he still killed a lion and a bear with his bare hands. David's goated. Don't even get it twisted. And even after that, he took his gigantic sword, and then he proceeded to like be chased by King Saul all over the place. And then when he became king and took over for Saul, he just got victories left and right. And that's why, and David dancing before the Lord, that's me. That's just like me, baby. I love to dance before the Lord, you know what I'm saying? Next up on our Bible power scaling list, we have John, which I'm pretty sure is John the Baptist. I don't think John has a ton of feats from what I researched, he doesn't have a ton of feats. I think it's notable that he can heal the sick, because he got called in, or he got referenced when people were calling Jesus up. John also got referenced to be able to heal somebody who was lame. So I think he has the capabilities to, be a healer, support type beat. You know what I'm saying? But also he had a vision of the end time. So that's another thing that lands him in the low tier hacks, because he has like vision capabilities with Joseph. David also, another reason that I kept him out of Superhuman was because whatchamacallit, one of the reasons that he was so close to Saul in the beginning before he was getting chased around by him was the fact that Saul always called in David to help make him well again, because like demons were like possessing him or whatever and making him sick, and then David would come in with his little harp and his little song, and he would play his little thing and sing his little song and do his little dance, and the demons would go away. Every single time that he called in David, he would do his little dance, he would sing his little song, and the demons would go away. So it's almost like an exorcism ability. I don't know if it would equate to the exact same thing, but it's somewhere around there. Next up, we have the high tier hacks, baby. The high tier hacks. And for those high tier hacks, the first up that we got is Peter. He healed a lot of people. After Jesus died, and then he came back, and then he told all of his disciples to go preach the gospel. A lot of the miracles that he did was he healed a lot of people of their sicknesses, and he even raised people from the dead. And I think one of the most notable things was that an angel rescued him from prison. But the one thing that I completely forgot, which should count or semi-count as a high tier hacks ability, is that Peter walked on water. What in the heck, bro? Peter walked on water, and I completely forgot about that. I'm almost ashamed of myself. And then we have Joshua, the successor of our boy Moses, who we're gonna get to in a second. But our boy Joshua, here are some feats that I had to research a little bit to really put into perspective of like where Joshua was at. Joshua also healed a lot of people. I believe he also raised people from the dead. But Joshua was also one of those people who was like in a lot of battles. He was one of those spiritual leaders who was in a lot of battles and like had God's intervention for getting the victory. I feel like a lot of people have those. Like David has that, Joshua had that, Moses had that, and I feel like that's kind of relative to the actual happenings of the feat of what's going on. But like you could say that like they were spiritually amped. But I don't know if I can attribute that specific feat to them. But regardless, that was one thing that Joshua was capable of doing. But another thing, what lands him in high tier hacks, is that he was essentially he almost essentially had cursed speech. He almost essentially had cursed speech in the sense that, or was like almost like Black Canary. Or I'm trying to think of any other superhero or some sort of ability that uses sound, but his ability, or one of the miracles that happened, was that usually he, in two separate occasions, I believe, there was once where he had his people march around this huge like tower or building, or march along a wall. I forget which one it was. I think it was some sort of stronghold, right? And he had his people march around it, and they were just playing trumpets. And I think they were doing that for a week. I don't know why I'm stuck in between 7 hours and 7 days, but something like that. They did it for an extended period amount of time, and eventually all they did was blow trumpets for a long amount of time, and the stronghold fell. What? I don't think the trumpets were even that loud. I think the trumpets were like at a regular, loud trumpet decibel. I don't think they were specifically loud, but they just fell. Like the walls just fell. So first up for the demi-divine tier, we have Elijah. Now Elijah, some of his miracles have to do, it has a lot to do with fire. I believe he also healed a lot of people. I think he did like a good amount of the stuff that some of the other people did. I believe he did have visions. I believe he did heal the sick wherever he went. But one of the things that stood out to me was the summoning pillars of fire multiple times. He did it multiple times at an altar for God. And he also, like, one day he was just walking along with Elisha, not to be confused between the two. He was walking along with Elijah, and just a chariot of fire came out of nowhere, and winds and stuff swept him up, and he just ascended into heaven with a chariot of fire. What? We have Paul. Paul is a great one. I love having Paul in the demi-divine tier, bro. Paul in the demi-divine tier is great because, well, man, he did a lot of stuff. He healed people, right? He definitely raised people from the dead. He cast blindness onto a sorcerer, which is like, I guess out-haxed. get wrecked, sorcerer. He caused blindness to a sorcerer. He exorcised a demon. Just outright exorcism of a demon. He caused an earthquake to set himself free from prison, and he has snake immunity. I believe a poisonous snake tried to bite him, and when he like touched it, it was just like, nah, you cool, bro. and so yeah. So that's the higher tier stuff that we're talking about. Earthquakes, exorcisms, blindness is just, you know what I'm saying? Like, I almost put him in higher tier hacks, but I don't know. I feel like the exorcism and the earthquake specifically are like demi-divine tier stuff, right? And yeah, I believe that fully covers Paul. There was a lot of instances of him healing the sick and raising people from the dead, specifically as he was preaching the gospel and whatnot. Okay, now for one of my favorite Bible characters. And to finish up the demi-divine tier, we have my second favorite of the Bible characters. We have our boy Moses. Yes, sir, my boy Moses. You who I call brother, how could you have come to hate me so? My boy Moses, the most famous for the 10 plagues, but he has other miracles other than that, less devastating miracles than that. He took water out of a stone. He's turned his staff into a snake that could cure poisons with its bite. He also, summoned a gigantic pillar of fire. Of course, one of his most notable, splitting the Red Sea. Oh, one thing I forgot to say about Joshua was that he parted the Jordan River, and Moses parted the Red Sea, which is a much larger body of water, if you didn't know that. And then he's one of the most famous for, other than splitting the Red Sea, is the 10 plagues, which over the course of 10 days, I believe, he turned water into blood. Frogs showed up. Lice infected the people of Egypt. Flies, the livestock died. Everybody got boils. Hail started raining down. Locusts started invading. Darkness just reigned over the kingdom, and it was like pitch black, except for the like villages or like the slaves of the people, the people that were enslaved that Moses was trying to free. Every place in Egypt was dark except for that spot where they lived. which is crazy. And would have to be like in the top 5 of the human tiers of strength and power scaling in the category. I'm pretty sure he would more than likely, if he had access to all of those miracles, I'm pretty sure he would more than likely beat everybody else on the list, except for one. And I think that one should be fairly obvious. I believe that one should be fairly obvious. I have the tier for one man and one man alone, God's personal favorite, and that is me. Okay, I confess, it's not me, it is our boy, Jesus. Of course. The Son of God. The man who gives us our victory. So many notable miracles, only the least of which is healing the sick time and time again, raising the dead time and time again. Not only that, but when he was on a boat and he was in the middle of a storm that was raging, rocking the boat back and forth, Jesus was taking a little nap. His friends were a little afraid, but he said, just tell the storm to stop. And he's like, what are you talking about? And Jesus got up and he said, hey, storm, shut up. And the storm stopped. Casual stuff like that. He got tempted by the devil and he resisted him. He multiplied bread and fish to feed thousands and thousands and thousands of people. He turned water into wine, and his final miracle was dying on the cross for our sins. Now, dying in and of itself obviously isn't a miracle, but after he died, it stated that he released the Holy Spirit onto his people for him to come back in 3 days, right? And when he died, he stormed the gates of hell, and he took the keys from the devil, stomped the devil's face out, pulled up with an army of angels. Angels handed his light work. He walked to the devil, punched him straight in the nose, stomped him out, and then took the keys of binding and loosing to give it to the people. And if not for Jesus, anybody in the New Testament like Paul, Peter, John, I'm pretty sure I said Paul, Peter, John, all those people wouldn't be able to do what they were able to do without Jesus' sacrifice. God's greatest gift to us. My boy, my goat, Jesus, of course, is at the top of this list, rightfully so, in the statue of, or in the tier of God's favorite. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I thought it would be a fun little video to do since, I like to put myself out there a little bit and experiment. And this is my way of putting myself out there and experimenting with videos a little bit, experimenting with power scaling kind of, and, just for you guys to get to know me. And you guys know I know a little bit about Bible lore, which is, that's something. But hey, I hope you guys had as much fun enjoying this video as I did making it. And I hope you all have a blessed and wonderful day. Bye-bye.